if people see somebody live rather than a graphic and a countdown timer to start with. That's why I do it this way now. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Didn't anybody know?
Yep.
Now let me make sure.
Yeah, I noticed that when I watch.
There you go.
This isn't crooked enough.
It's your head. Your head's crooked.
How's that?
Perfect.
Yeah, I mean, if it's gonna be crooked, just make sure it's
Absolutely perfect. So let me just check and make sure we're on the channels we're supposed to be on. There we are on YouTube, which is fine.
Probably. Yeah. Now I'm getting notifications. I should probably turn all that off.
Huh.
Yeah. So, yeah, we're on YouTube. Now I'm going to put us on Facebook, a bunch of places. This is what takes a while.
So, Richard, maybe after next year, when Apple, if they release a lower priced Vision, you'll have FCP radio, TV. We all can virtually. That'd be interesting.
Well, there's a couple. We can talk about the, I call them the goggles, the Final Cut Pro, the Tim Cook goggles, but it's really, sometimes the way they advertise them are very strange, and we can talk about it later. But the one thing I found strange was the father talking to his kids with goggles on in the kitchen. I think that's the strangest way to advertise them. I would never in a million years do that.
An advertisement, yeah. That is very odd.
I thought that was very strange.
Maybe he's a really monstrous child and the dad just can't
Well,
stand it.
in that case, yes. That exactly correct. So let me just continue this. So we're going to come back. This is Final Cut TV Live. We're doing a New Year's show, special New Year's show with these excellent Final Cut pros on the screen here, including myself. And we'll be back in a few minutes and we'll start the discussion about Final Cut Pro in 2023 and Final Cut Pro in 2024. Because we know a lot of secrets, don't we?
Yes.
There you go. There you go. We'll be right back. here and turning that off. Turning off. There we go. There we go. So I'm going to monitor. Let me just see. Yeah, the YouTube stream looks fine.
Great.
Oh, you guys, well, the YouTube stream is nice and clear, crystal clear. So let me see if I can get this right now.
Yeah, it's getting better.
Okay. Over here to the left on my screen, we have Michael Yanovich from LA, right, Michael?
Yeah, so this is the Queen's wave. It's how she waves. Well, she's
I remember. And
like
Jackie Onassis did the same thing. Down here in the bottom left-hand corner is Tangier Clark, also from LA, is it? You from LA?
Yes, also from Los Angeles.
LA. And right below me is Brett Williams, the author of Brett FX, all those cool plugins. I met him for the first time at the Creative Summit, and I said, yeah, I have a bunch of your plugins.
Yeah.
So he was surprised. He acted surprised.
I had no idea.
No idea people buy those?
No, I had no idea you had them there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So we have our first comment here, Bruce Babcock, who was also at the Creative Summit. I met Bruce for the first time at the Creative Summit. And we're going to talk about 2023. I think the biggest thing was the Creative Summit. Don't you all agree with Final Cut in the world of Final Cut Pro?
Yes, when you narrow it down to the world of
Biggest thing,
Final Cut Pro, yes.
Yeah, of course. Of course. That's what this is about. Final Cut
Yes.
Pro, the world of Final Cut Pro. So people, we put our comments on there. What's up, everyone? How you doing, Matthew? Glad you could tune in. So people, I found it interesting that people criticized Final Cut Pro 10.7.1.
I hadn't heard they had criticized it about what?
Yeah,
Because it doesn't have features.
just falling
It's a
short
bug fix.
again.
It's a bug
it's
fix
exactly. Exactly.
What has your
What
killer
I say, I said, would you rather them not put out a bug fix when it's ready? Is that what you'd prefer? I would rather have them put the bug fixes out as quick as possible, and they did it.
Yeah.
So, talking about Final Cut Pro updates. So this is the first time in the history of Final Cut Pro 10 they put out 7 updates in 7 months. 7 updates in 7 months. Here's the other thing that's interesting they've never done before. They put out 1 bug fix within 2 weeks. The second bug fix within 2 weeks and 2 days, 2 weeks and 2 days. And this third bug fix, 3 weeks. They've never put up bug fixes out that fast before. Usually you had to wait for a month. So my point is I'd rather have the bug fixes as quick as possible and then the features when they're ready.
And something they've never done before that I remember is they told us what they were going to release a month before they released it.
They did that with 10, let me see, 10, what are we on? 10.4.4? 10.4.4 at the Creative Summit. They did the same thing.
Okay. I
They
wasn't
did
at
it.
that one.
Yeah, they did it.
You mean with 10.7, they, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
No, here's the thing. People that don't go to the summit are always saying, well, you guys get that, but the rest of the Final Cut Pro community doesn't. No, the rest of the Final Cut Pro community knows exactly what we know within seconds of us knowing it, because we are allowed to post on social media. We were allowed to post on social media immediately. As soon as we saw 10.7, they didn't say don't post it. They said, please post it immediately. Now, I was shocked. Now, I say this all the time. I was completely shocked that they had a scrolling timeline in 10.7. I was not, I was caught off guard. I was expecting text-based editing or auto captions or something. I was not
10
expecting,
years.
pardon?
10 years, Richard.
12 years.
12
12
years you had that listed?
Yeah, no. Well, the thing was, I wasn't expecting it in 10.7 for some reason. It doesn't.
Okay, but you had it listed for how long as a feature request?
Over 15 years.
Oh wow. Okay.
I had it from the classic. I started.
Yeah.
I started a top 50 list with Final Cut Pro 7 or Final Cut Pro 5, not 10.5, but Final Cut Pro 5. I started a top 50 list of things I'd like to see, and the first thing at the top of the list was scrolling timeline. I have to republish that at some point. It was for Final Cut Pro 10, Final Cut Pro 5, and the scrolling timeline was there then. And then all these years I've waited, and it showed up. And here's one thing: when they showed the scrolling timeline, Bill Davis showed it at the Apple campus. They had an icon for the scrolling timeline, which we saw first, and I said, is that a scrolling timeline icon? And it sure enough was, but it's not in 10.7 anywhere. The icon that they previewed is not in Final Cut Pro 10.7. Now, what I'm thinking was that icon would be perfect fit. You know that little bar at the top of the timeline that's blank?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The perfect place for that scrolling timeline icon for people that want to turn it on and off. Now, in my case, I went to the settings window and I super glued scrolling timeline so it stays on permanently. I use super glue on my screen so it stays on. But some people want to turn it on and
other
off.
ways to do that. I'm just,
Oh, there is? I figured super glue was
there
the
might
best
be.
way to do it.
I'll teach you next time.
Okay.
Richard, what I found really peculiar, and correct me, Richard, if I'm wrong, and each of you from the summit is, was the scrolling timeline one of the features that was activated, if you will? Meaning, there was a conversation, where it's like there's things that we just basically had to turn on, but they're already there,
Right.
and once it kind of meets Apple's performance requirements.
Oh, it absolutely, because I tell you why. I've heard for 10 years that there's a scrolling timeline in Final Cut Pro because people on the inside have seen it. For 10 years, I've been told that. So it absolutely was the case that it's been there. They're waiting for performance. They're waiting for whatever. Absolutely, it's been there all this time.
Isn't that what
And
it
for
is?
anyone
I wonder
that's
what
catching
else.
up, it's drawing the waveforms. That they
Drawing the
haven't waited for
waveforms,
the
right?
processors.
So I wonder what else
Was anybody
is sitting there.
was anybody
waiting to be
disappointed the
activated.
waveforms didn't work when you turn off the scrolling timeline?
Well, I don't know because I don't turn it off.
I
You
know.
super glued it.
I super glued it. Every
I don't know
morning
why
I
they
get
couldn't
up.
get that to work though.
Every morning I get up and I make sure I wasn't dreaming. I get up and start up my Mac and say, is that real? Is it really here after all these years? Well, Michael, you since you work in Hollywood, one of the main things that the Hollywood people wanted was dupe detection. Right?
Yeah.
And that took.
Oh, I was one of the many people pestering for that for a long time. And I remember when it came out, the non-professional community was making fun, like, we don't need this. Like, oh, no. Those of us working in a professional environment absolutely needed dupe detection. 100%. It was a crucial feature.
No, I understand. And I understand. So here's what I see in the Final Cut Pro community. There's curmudgeons. Okay, Final Cut Pros that are curmudgeons. And they don't want your features. They want just their features. And if they don't get their features and you get your features, they're pissed off about it. I've seen this. It's just weird. I want everybody to have the features that they want for the most part. So even though dupe detection was not on my personal top 10 list, top 5 list, say, I was so glad that we finally got it. Because we even talked about that, Michael, in 2019 at the Creative Summit. You made a joke about pitchforks.
I remember when it came out, that when the feature was released, was a week and a half after I started a new film. And still on my cut, have not been working with the director, they're still shooting. But by the time the director came on and he asked me as we're putting in shots, have we used this shot before? I didn't have to sit there and fumble like an idiot like I've had to do for a decade or however long I've been using Final Cut. It was right there.
Right.
Let's see, there's no line here. I mean, that was a no-brainer. We needed it a long time ago, and better late than never. I'm thrilled it's in, and it's been a project I'm working on now. we're using it all the time because we shot overseas, and we have a lot of footage of the country we're shooting at and being big on purpose. And you see all the a lot of beauty shots of the location. And it's important to tell, from one version of the cut to the next, have we used this already? It's a good tool.
Right. Well, plus they improved it in 10.7, right? They did some improvements somehow. They did some to the dupe detection. They did something to it in 10.7.
I think so. They did. You know what? 10.7.
They did.
I just updated 10.7 over break. I haven't used it yet.
What'd you say, Brett?
Same.
I remember you and Bill talking about that on a previous episode, and I was trying to understand.
They did something because I forget exactly what it was, but they definitely improved it in 10.7. So it wasn't stagnant since it was introduced a while back. But here's something else. They took 5 years to get remove attributes. I bring this up all the time. 5 years to get remove attributes. That should have been like from the very beginning, as far as I'm concerned. But it took 5 years. So the one thing that they told us,
is that right?
during the Q&A,
what did we have when it launched? Just remove effects or
something like that. It took 5 years. I marked it on my calendar. Yeah, exactly. So one thing that they told us, and I'm really glad that they did because they were honest, is we're going to update Final Cut Pro on our schedule.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We see all the social media posts. We see everybody complaining about X, Y, and Z. We're going to update Final Cut Pro on our schedule, period. And that's what they've been doing all along.
Yeah.
For example, we used to get a 10-point full number update, used to be a laundry list of new features. They don't do that anymore. 10.5, 10.6, and now 10.7 had a small group. Well, 10.5 didn't have hardly anything, but 10.6 and 10.7 has a small group of features, and then the rest of the features are rolled out during the lifespan of it. So, but I'm glad that hey, look, to tell us that. Don't BS us, and they did. They said, we're going to update Final Cut Pro on our schedule. We hear your suggestions. I mean, obviously, scrolling timeline's been a top suggestion from a lot of people for years, but 12 years, we finally got it.
Did you use the command post scrolling timeline?
Yes, I tried that a few times, and I used it a few times. But Chris Hawking said himself, there's no comparison between what Apple incorporated and what his version was.
He also said they were just turning on a hidden feature. So I wondered, I tried it, and it was pretty stuttery, the command post, but it might have been my computer at the time.
No, it because he was doing something with accessibility. That's how he was working it. That's how this workaround. No, he said himself. I mean, obviously the Final Cut Pro version is much better than his version, far superior. So
yeah, what he was enabling was probably like from 5 years ago or something that was buried.
It was a hack. It was a complete hack.
He wasn't enabling anything from the software. Yeah, he had workarounds.
That's right.
Right.
Well, he said that feature was in there.
No, I know, but he wasn't enabling it on. He didn't turn it on. No. He was doing something different. He was doing something with accessibility because I remember him talking about it, and it was just he just did it because all his editors wanted it. So yeah, I'd use that a few times. But I like this version, obviously.
Maybe it was the timeline markers, moving those. Maybe that's what it was. It was.
Yeah,
I guess we still don't have that.
So Bruce Babcock says, I just saw Adobe is a new sponsor of LACPUG, and LA is a shame considering the event used to be Final Cut Pro based. I wish Apple would sponsor more events like outside the summit. People say that all the time. I'm not sure. I mean, yeah, I'd like them to be at NAB like they were in 2016, 17, and 18. Absolutely. I really enjoyed seeing the Final Cut Pro team do presentations and at NAB. I really enjoyed that. In 2019, they were on stage at this Faster Together stage 2. Somebody from the Final Cut Pro team was there. So 2016, 17, 18, and 19. Now, last 2 years, they haven't been there at all. It's been zero Final Cut Pro at NAB. Nothing, because that's what I look for.
Yeah, I'd love for them to sponsor more, but I know one thing they talked about is they want third-party developers. They want Adobe. They want Avid, very active in the Macintosh community. And I mean, Apple could out-advertise them both, and they don't, because they want that. They want black magic. They want the competition. They want the developers working on software. And I think Bill Davis said it at the conference that they're not trying to make Final Cut the standard of Hollywood. They want anybody in Hollywood who wants to work on it to be able to work on it, to have the interaction with the other software, to have the studio support, etc. It's a different approach, and I'd like a little bit more push, because I think the community should be a little bigger. I'd like to have assistant editors to choose from instead of having to train them. There's issues there, but I respect that they're not trying to push out the third-party companies also in the same space.
So, Michael, talking about that, you publicly said that you go to the Apple Hollywood meetings that they have, and that's all you're allowed to say, that you attend those, right? That
they have I forget what they call it, the professional
letter to Final Cut to Apple about Final Cut Pro.
The open letter, yeah.
Yeah.
And it resulted in a focus group, not a focus group. Kind of. Yeah, I forget what they call it. I can never remember the name. But yes, right. I'm in it.
Yes. So can you tell us how many times a year you meet?
It's every few months. It's not a set schedule. It's when there's something to talk about. Sometimes it is in person at their offices in LA. Sometimes it is over Zoom. Even when it is in person, we also have, not over Zoom, over whatever they use, though. It's online as well.
WebEx.
We also have people from, WebEx, I think. We also have people who can't make it in person on those meetings as well.
So
we're allowed to say we're in it. I think they're actually listening. I've seen some changes, but we can't talk specifics.
No, I understand. Are you satisfied with the progress of those meetings, or do you think that could be maybe a little more aggressive about, getting things that you talk about to the public? Are you satisfied with the meeting from that angle?
I think, it seems there's been some good developments, and there's some stuff that I'm hoping is going to reach fruition. Just because we talk about it doesn't mean it's going to happen.
Right.
It's only been a little over a year, so it's early stages of this process, and maybe a year and a few months at this point. I can't quite remember.
Right.
But I'm glad they're doing it, and I have high hopes for the future.
Well, you're working on a film. You showed a clip at the Creative Summit, and you're editing that in Final Cut? Using that Final Cut for that? Okay.
Oh, yeah. And my previous film, I think this is my fourth full-length feature on Final Cut, fourth or fifth, I'd have to figure out. But the previous one hasn't been released yet. They're working on selling it. This one we were hoping to lock picture, I don't know, January or February. And once it's locked, you got to do the mix. You got to do the online. We're still working on VFX and the color, and another 2 months of work after it's finished, then you have to sell it. So it's a cool movie.
What are you? The clip was phenomenal. I won't say anything that you don't want to talk about, but the clip you showed at the Creative Summit, I was completely flabbergasted at the actor and the performance, because I know the actor from. Can I say who the actor was?
Yeah. I think it's not a secret. We're not promoting it yet because it's not ready to promote, but sure.
But I know the actor from Twin Peaks. He was in Twin Peaks. Yes, he was Audrey Horne's love interest.
I have not seen Twin Peaks.
Ah, okay.
So I didn't know this. That's why I'm surprised. I did not know that. That's new.
Yes, that's what I know him from.
Okay.
From that specifically. So Michael,
I'm gonna look it up now.
What are your pain points using Final Cut Pro in Hollywood doing film? What kind of things would you like to see specifically addressed going from Final Cut to color, Final Cut to audio, Pro Tools, I presume?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Editing, there's still a few. Things are getting better, but there's still a rules-based mixer. Many of us do. Mixing in Final Cut is not horrible, but it's not. I understand why you can't have a mixer knob, because if you're moving one of the levers, that's for track 1, this is track 2, this is track 3. We don't have that. So there's no way to have
Right.
a physical mixing board or a virtual mixing board relating to specific tracks. So it's tricky, but I like to see a rules.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd like to go, we use Extra Pro to go to Pro Tools. Everyone mixes in Pro Tools. And the one thing I hear consistently from the mixers is they get hundreds of tracks, because I'm using so much audio in the feature film, and they get so many tracks, and I end up going into the settings and changing it so sub rolls are mixed with the parent roll, which helps.
Right.
But it'd be nice if it was a way to condense it even further, because I'm trying to make the mixer's life easier. They get a very organized layout, but there's a lot of tracks. And
Right.
if we could simplify that, it'd be good.
What about color?
Another thing, audio effects don't get transferred over, but you have the same issue going from Avid to Pro Tools, and they're the same company. You figure they'd have that worked out. So you have to, but on Avid, when you have an audio effect, be it a speed change or a pitch change, you'll see the icon on the screen. I have to manually go through and find them. So do I do a speed change on this? I have to go through clip by clip and do an output, re-import it as a mix down, just so they have a reference. I'm not expecting them to use it, but I want them to know what it's supposed to sound like. I need an assistant editor on my next film.
Top editors should switch to DaVinci Resolve, Avid, or Premiere Pro after earning.
No.
Wow.
Top editors should have to deal with the track-based system again. No. I don't want all the pain points mean I don't have to deal with tracks. Oh my God, the time saving is huge. And I've cut films on Avid, and I've cut film on Premiere Pro, and I'll never do that again. That was a horrible experience.
You know
Go
what,
ahead, Tangier.
Mike, I'll do the ad. I'll do the ad for you. To that comment, please look up Michael's wonderful article that he wrote about going from Avid to Final Cut. And please just Google it; you'll find it. It was what year did you write that, Michael?
I've been on Final Cut maybe 6 or 7 years now, so it would have been there. It's on No Film School. Go to No Film School.
No Film. Yeah, I mean it's very, very well articulates, and that was obviously an older version of Final Cut Pro, but articulates some of the benefits of switching from one system to, at least from Avid to the other, and I still reference it. And not only that point, of course, I use Resolve as well. I use it, and I teach my students to use it as well. But we're kind of up in the air. Well, people, I think, are up in the air on exactly what's happening with Avid right now. So, people are curious on what's actually going to happen with Avid. Nobody knows yet.
Right.
I don't expect that to go away.
No.
Right.
I don't see how it could.
Not at all.
I don't see how it could.
I think a long time ago, I gave at some user group in Atlanta here. I was doing After Effects back then, and we didn't hit. We had just had like Final Cut 1 or 2, and they wanted me to talk at the Avid user group, which I was a member of. Why you need to go to After Effects? What are the reasons? And you're talking like 1998, 2000, something like that. And I remember writing down 4 or 5 things that you couldn't do in Avid that you could do in After Effects, and stuff like blend modes, resolution independence, a few other. And as I went through the list, talking to the people, the little group and everything, I realized these are all things we can do in Final Cut 1.0.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I should have been talking about why are we, and at the time I was just doing like Final Cut at home and that sort of thing, and Avid freelance. And then pretty soon I think a lot of the Avid shops here in Atlanta at least switched to Final Cut, somewhere around version 2 or 3.
Right.
As Avid did one of their hardware switches that meant you had to renew your whole lease or buy a whole new system or something like that. And
yeah.
and they were threatening to drop the Mac and that sort of thing, or only some updates were coming out of them. Yeah,
that's exactly
I think we're talking
correct.
20-something years ago. 20 years.
Yeah, no, we are.
I remember those days.
Yeah.
I started on Premiere for the Mac, Premiere 6 or 7 for the Mac. And then they did something really stupid. They did a couple of things really stupid. Number one is they dropped support for the Macintosh for a couple of years. Number two, they pissed off Steve Jobs.
When they went Premiere Pro.
Two things. No, it was because of the switch from PowerPC to Intel, is what they said. Okay, they couldn't do one or the other. But during that time period is when Final Cut Pro 1.0 came out. So I switched from Premiere on the Mac to Final Cut Pro, and then, of course, never looked back at that point. But you, of all the things you do you really want to piss off Steve Jobs? And they did that. They really made him mad because they dropped support for the Mac instead of working with him to do things. He's somebody I wouldn't want to make mad if I was a business person. I mean, look at Michael Dell's famous quote. Somebody asked him what he would do if he was in charge of Apple, and he said, "Oh, I would sell all the stock and give it back to the shareholders." Yeah. Well, Dell's down here, and of course Apple's. Apple can't get any higher, you know. So.
I remember I had battles with my professor. I was at LMU at the time, I think, when Final Cut 1 came out, Loyola Marymount University, in graduate school. And I'm having many arguments with a professor there because he was convinced that the things that I wanted to do could only be done on an Avid. And I was trying to convince him, no, I can do all those things you're talking about on Final Cut with my Power Mac G4, no problems at home. And he just was not wanting to hear that. He was convinced that I could not do these things. And so I, in film school, I had to cut some films and show him. And it's always been, an uphill battle. Yeah, whether it's Final Cut Legacy, as I call it now, Final Cut Legacy, or Final Cut, 10 and moving forward with this architecture, it's always been kind of a proving ground. You've constantly got to prove that it's worthy of professional work, which is, in and of itself is a kind of a, subjective in nature at times.
So Tangier, what were some of your favorite things from the Creative Summit?
It was just finally getting to meet you in person, Richard.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Meeting all the people that, I read about or who share information and I look up to and talk to online. I think that was just the best part, is just being in the same spaces as all of the people that I kind of rely on or talk to or we just communicate about, Final Cut and in the community over the years. That was the best part. And then the icing on the cake was, of course, not just going to Apple was special, but it was getting to speak directly with the Pro Apps team. That was a definite treat, to be able to have their ear for a few moments and articulate some of the things that we're concerned about. That was very nice.
Now, have you, when I interviewed, I did a live stream from the Expo night. I talked to you and I talked to Michael and Steve Martin and Mark Spencer and a whole bunch of other people. And I was going to throw you off the live stream because you said you weren't interested in the scrolling timeline. Has that changed, or I have to throw you off now? Have you used it at all? Have you used it?
So,
Tangier, we'll talk later.
Yeah. Actually, it's not that I'm not interested. It's just that of the priorities of the things that I want, or the features that I really need, that wasn't one of them. I think that for me, that's one of those features where, and I'm like Mike, where I just switched over because we just locked Picture not that long ago, and I'm kind of in a place where now I can upgrade and see how things are. But the scrolling timeline just wasn't high on my priority list. It may be something that I'm going to give it a try, see if I like it, see how it works out, and maybe I leave it on. But I haven't had this burning desire. I've been fine without it, but maybe if I give it a chance, I'll just, it'll turn out that I love it. It wasn't high on my priority list.
So one thing I want to say is, of the sessions that I attended, I'm going to say, first off, right off the bat, Michael's, yours was fantastic, the one you did. I really like that. But I also
I shared the stage with a couple of people. It was not all me.
Robin Moran, and who was the third person?
It was Oh my God! You just put me on the spot and blank. He did the documentary with the
Oh
actor from
yeah.
Coda.
What was-
That's okay. That's
and
okay.
I'm apologizing right now. I just drew a blank.
Do I have a picture of that somewhere? I can look it up. Well, I'll look it
know
up while
him.
you're talking.
Boom. Sorry. I know
Well,
him, but it just went blank.
The point is that your presentation, you were very, very good natural presenter. You have confidence when you talk. Your subject matter expertise. I'm just telling you truthfully. I mean, I know we're friends.
I learned from you, Richard.
Andy Toe?
No, it wasn't that.
No, not Andy?
No.
Okay, just curious. Huh.
I'm looking it up right now.
I can't believe I'm just blank.
That's okay. We'll get it here in a second.
I'm going to owe him a beer at the next summit.
Absolutely. Well, you owe me a hamburger, but besides that.
I don't owe you nothing.
Yes, you do. Yes, you absolutely do. Josh Myers. Josh Myers.
Josh Myers, thank you. Thank you. Oh my God,
Yes.
that's blank.
Okay.
Josh, I owe you one. Sorry, buddy.
Absolutely. So besides that presentation, I just want to say that I thought it was excellent. I filmed, I think I got some clips from that. I'll have to put them together and send them to you. Because one of the things that at the Creative Summit, sometimes the presenters were dark. They were, the lighting wasn't.
You mean the lighting that was on them, not their presentation subject matter?
Yes, exactly. I didn't mean if the presentation was dark, I'd be really interested. No, it's just, the lighting was just down lighting. And sometimes, I don't know who controlled whether the stage was lit up or not, whether the presenters did it, because some of the stage was fine. But anyway, I had my Lumix S5 Mark II X that is fantastic in low light. So I've recorded some of the sessions with that in 6K. So I have good clear. I'll send you some stuff that I recorded from yours. But I thought Storm Davies was phenomenal. She's one of my favorite presenters. And I was a little bit shocked that I liked it so much. I really was.
She had a very charismatic presentation. And for those, I didn't know who she was before I saw her on stage. So she's hearing impaired. She did her whole presentation in sign language and had an interpreter. I think she had somebody interpret. She wasn't speaking herself, was she? I can't recall. But she was great.
She did a little bit of speaking some of the time because she was mic'd up, and some of the time. No, it was interesting because she had her own interpreter and the other woman had her own interpreter. So there were two separate voices for the hearing audience. So they could distinguish which one was, it wasn't just one interpreter. It's two separate interpreters with two separate voices. I found that very interesting. But her presentation was phenomenal. I recorded the entire thing, and I'm working on editing that now to get it out for her, and people at Apple also want that presentation. So we're going to I'm going to finish the whole thing. Now, I got to the end, not to the end, I'm getting close to the end, and I'm thinking, okay, I don't have to caption this because there's sign language. But then I said, no, I'm going to caption it as well. Because who's the audience? You know,
there could be people who don't know sign language who
many people
absolutely should.
Many people don't know sign language that are hard of hearing. My mother, for example, she was in her 90s. It didn't do any good. Sign language did absolutely no good. She didn't study it. She didn't know it. She needed the caption. So I'm going to take it into Resolve and caption it. That's where all my captioning is done, because they have a great auto transcriber captioning, and you can just do really good in this. So I'm going to take it in there. So we have let me see some more comments. Oh, look at that nice comment.
Oh, thank you,
Session
Bruce.
Mike. Yeah, absolutely. He told me that in private. He wished they did some more pro level things. Well, it's a mix of things. I absolutely like the pro stuff myself, but I liked your session a lot, Michael. Just so you know.
Yeah, Apple wants it to be a tool for everybody. They don't want it just to be for the pros. Fair enough. I respect that.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, they told us. Interestingly, we had the Q&A with the Apple team. And I don't know, they didn't do any They didn't do any. They didn't say you don't talk about this session outside of this session like they have in the past. They have in the past specifically said everything that's said in this room stays in this room. This is just for the attendees of the Final Cut Pro Creative Summit. But they didn't do that this time, so people were, talking about different things. I mean,
They were pretty tight. They were pretty tight-lipped, though.
they were. They
You mean
were.
at the
Q&A.
summit, not at. Okay, yeah.
The Q&A.
Yeah, they were
So
One of the things I
fairly
really
tight-lipped.
one of the things I really appreciated that they did mention, and I believe is okay to say, is that they do read the feedback, the comments, when you submit feedback, things like that, but specifically that it helps not just to complain and say you want a feature, but specifically what helps their team is to articulate how does this improve your post-production workflow? How does this improve your editorial life? Not just I want this because that is. I got the impression that that's what they're really keen on. Is everybody's got features that they want or complaints and things like that, and what they really want is it's okay to send that information in, but they really want specifically how will it improve the way you work, how you work, and what you're doing. That's what they're
Right.
very attentive to.
when the general public, whenever, and I bring this up all the time, I say they read every comment. The general public thinks that means they're going to get a personal email back. If they don't get a personal email back, then they didn't read it. No, that's not what they said. They're not going to respond to everybody, but they read every comment. And they tally, if they keep seeing a bug, for example, they'll tally up the bugs, and then they'll try to reproduce it. Or if a feature request comes in over, and like dupe detection, they'd have a running tally. Somebody tallies that stuff up, so they get an idea of what the community wants. But they have surprises too. I mean, when they
these are the feedbacks that people send in, not
Feedback.
like YouTube comments. Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
but people always think, well, they don't read those
Yeah,
things.
they read them all.
Yeah, they read every one of them. There's a
it was
scene in
like,
Lost. If you ever saw Lost, the TV series, where they found a one of those hydraulic tube systems where you put notes in it and it goes up through the tube. And they found that, and they said, well, this is really interesting. People were putting suggestions. But when they got outside, the tubes were emptying in the field into a big pile. So all the tubes were just sitting there.
Pneumatic tubes. Hydraulic would have water.
Yes, that's what it was, yeah. So that I always think of that when people say, "Oh, they don't read." No, they absolutely read everyone, but they're not going to give you a personal response. That's not what they're doing. They just tally, but they do read everyone. So if you send it in, rest assured that they've seen it. So another comment from Bruce Babcock about Michael. I brought up your work on Face Off to you and saw shortly after several seasons are on Netflix now.
Yeah, that was a fun show to work on. That was Avid. I mean, for guys that I was on Avid for 25 years. I know it well.
Right.
Yeah, Face Off is a cool show. It was a show I was working on.
So
It's
I
a show
know
about
the
special
movie.
effects makeup.
I know the movie
Nothing to
Face
do
Off.
with the movie.
Okay.
Yes, unrelated.
Okay.
It's a competition show, reality show, special effects makeup, and some amazing artists doing really high-end visual special effects, prosthetic, painting, masks, body suits. It was impressive work. And I don't know why only a few seasons are on Netflix. We aired on Sci-Fi. A show I think our last episode was almost 10 years ago.
Okay.
But it's a good show, and they put a couple of seasons on Netflix. Pretty cool.
So
I'm
what
wearing this is my sweatshirt. Look, I'm wearing my Face Off. Everything's backwards on my screen.
There you go.
My Face
Yeah.
Off sweatshirt.
Oh, very cool. Now that's on
My wife
Netflix.
and
You
I
said.
love that show, Michael.
It's on
Yeah.
Netflix now. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll
We loved
have to
it.
watch
We watched
that.
all of it. Yeah.
Cool.
Absolutely. Brett, what did you like about the Creative Summit? Anything stand out for you?
I mean, like Tangier. Is that how you say it? Tangier?
Yes.
Yep.
Tangier.
Just like the city.
Yeah, I would say meeting everybody. I mean, of course, it's good to see the tips and tricks and that sort of thing, but I've been working in this since I think I'm online too much. There weren't a lot of, tips and tricks and training surprises, for me at least. but just getting to meet all the people that I chat with online, met Tanko for the first time, and you, Richard, and
Absolutely.
I've never been to one. So I mean, my friend Maureen, who I think you met, Richard, that was with me there the first couple of days.
Yep.
And she's also a producer and editor, and she was there in 2019 and said, "You got to go next year." I said, "Well, I'll do it," and it didn't happen for a couple of years. So
It was a really good summit. It was a really good summit. 2019 was a little bit less exciting. Let's just say
was
that.
it?
Michael was there. Yeah.
The disappointment
good
not
time.
getting to actually go to the mothership, I hear, was instead you got to go to the gift shop, which we also went to as well.
Yeah.
Right.
I do remember one a few tidbits that I didn't know was Steve did an audio class, and I remember him saying just little things like there is a LUFS meter in
Yes.
Final Cut. Man, I wrote that one down. I think it's in the multimeter or something like that.
Multimeter, yeah.
Yeah,
It
that kind of
it
blew me
might be
away. I
from
was like,
Logic.
oh.
It might be one of the Logic plugins.
I'm sure it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
It just, but it. I was like, well, there you go. Everybody's always complaining about that. So I kind of went to the Motion, watched Robin, in his, and all the different Motion things to pick up a few
Yes.
things there, which I don't remember now, of course.
Right.
But
I recorded some of Robin's.
I mean, for me, meeting all the people, because I'm on here trying to sell plugins and that sort of thing, and talking with all you guys and everything. And now I'm not. Hopefully, I'm not just a voice on the internet. I'm somebody you've interacted with in person, and I've interacted with you guys. I mean, it's
No, I
can't put a price on that, really.
I really enjoyed meeting you, and I just want to give you a plug because you're not going to do it. Is your Outliner FX 2.0 plug is fantastic. It really, really
Thank you.
is. Absolutely, I
thank
really, really like that. If you got to check it out, you have a free trial for that for people, I think, right?
Yeah, I'm kind of trying that out, the whole watermark kind of thing. So you can, do it with a watermark on there, and then when you buy the full version, it just it installs in the same spot just without the watermark. So
Yeah, that's a good deal. So I really like that plugin. That's one of your newest ones. So we have a comment about sign language, not only just sign
don't have
language.
many.
English sign language is different from American, New Zealand sign language. And so that's another consideration. Not only people that are hard of hearing or deaf, not all of them do sign language, but there's different sign language for different countries. So that's another. That's why you need captions. That's why you need captions. So I will be captioning that video when I get finished up. So most of you guys are using 2 or 3 softwares for editing video. If you had to choose one, would it be? I think all of us would see Final Cut Pro.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm not a Final Cut editor. I'm an editor. It's my career. I go in, I take footage, I shape it. That's my career, and I can use multiple systems as you need to in this industry because I don't always. Face Off was an Avid job, and I wasn't using Final Cut. I think I started learning it then. But we needed collaboration with a lot of people as before PostLab was around. So it was an Avid gig. And I've like I said, I've cut one feature on Premiere. I will never go through. I'm not a fan of Premiere. I've talked to. I think I like Adobe. I think Premiere has some huge user interface issues. I've talked at length with Adobe about them. They listened, they understood, they haven't changed them. Fair enough. I'm not going to be one of those users.
Right.
I'll cut a movie on Avid if I have to, but in general, Final Cut's my first choice. 100% of the time, it's my first choice.
Same.
Likewise. I think all of us would probably say this is our top.
Yeah,
I mean,
I've
I'm
used
liking
them all. Yeah.
I'm liking LumaFusion more and more the more I use it. It is a fantastic NLE. And you can use it on a Mac. It's on Apple Silicon Macs. You can use it on, this is what I love, I can use it on my iPhone. When I'm at NAB and when I'm at the Creative Summit and I want to put out a couple of clips really quick, I'm getting really, really good at it. So I have a pro editor on the phone. I don't have to export the footage to my laptop and then bring it, No, I just leave it, shoot on the phone and edit on the phone. So LumaFusion is becoming my number 2. But I do like Black Resolve, especially for captioning. So we had a question. about doing captioning. I don't send the XML. I just export the full video and bring it into Resolve. And there's a two-stage process. Number one is you can caption and do text-based editing on the clip itself. So you first do the clip when you bring it in, then you can select portions of text and drop them into the timeline as you go, and then you can also put captions on the timeline itself. Two different sections of doing captioning. But I love it, the simplicity of it in Resolve. I love the fact that the captions are so easy to do. It's built in, doesn't cost any more. You don't have to pay for a third-party solution and stuff. Although there are some good ones for Final Cut Pro as well. I haven't got into them yet because Resolve's just always there for me. So,
Would that be your number one ask for 2024 or the next version?
well, I have a distinction of things that I want versus things that I think they will incorporate, and I'm really surprised that text-based editing was not in 10.7. I thought that was just a no-brainer. Would that, no, obviously the scrolling timeline would have been my number one, but it wasn't on my radar for 10.7 for some reason. I'm thinking, okay, well, everybody knows that I want this, but for 10.7, I'm thinking they're going to do scrolling timeline or maybe whatever, a couple of other things. So my main thing would be, there's a text-based editing is text-based editing and auto captions. They should go together. So you don't, and I don't need text-based editing for short videos. But when I get into 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour long, and I'm doing mainly a radio edit, text-based editing is just fantastic. Because you can read through a paragraph and say, oh, I don't want any of that in there. Just don't select it or just select it and delete it. So that's what it comes in. It's just for rough cut editing. Obviously, it's not for fine point. But I use it for audio for the podcast all the time. So I'm thinking that the auto captions seems to be a no-brainer because Apple's so much into, inclusivity when it comes to people with disabilities. So I'm thinking that should be a no-brainer for them. But also a roles-based mixer. Come on, after all these years. Yeah. So.
What about a little keyframing? A little keyframing love would be nice.
I would love. Listen, can't you take the motion team out to lunch and just steal their keyframe editor?
Right. So that's a higher priority for me over the scrolling timeline. That's an example of just the easing in and out.
You are really pushing your luck. Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Your screen's going to go blank. I don't know what happened to him. He's just gone. No, of course, that's completely
Tangier,
fine.
you want me to take some heat too? Because it's not on my top of my list either.
But
Thank you.
have either one of
It's
you
already,
used it?
guys, it's out. It's already out.
Bye, guys.
It's already
No.
done. It's already there. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think
that
my
help.
muscle memory is 25 years of muscle memory. It's too late. It's too late for me.
Doing this for 12 years, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
Oh, you use a trackpad? Yeah, just slide.
No, I use
No,
a mouse.
You're right.
I love
You're right, Richard. Just the motion, way of doing keyframing, and I don't know, just something. It's a shame to me that this long that we just don't have better keyframing abilities.
Oh yeah.
So Tangier, do you open up the way I do it, as opposed to in the info, in the command for info box, I open up the clip where you extend
on the timeline, Control V to see the video animation, and you can.
Yeah,
right,
is that how you do it?
But that really that only
it's not
is
great.
where
it's
where the keyframes land, not as much
It just helps move them around.
Right.
Yeah.
The easing in and out is going to happen like in the actual viewer, and you can right click it and say smooth or linear, but it just never is. The math is not calculated the same together in a nice curve like you would in motion. Right. It can be frustrating, and I think it's one of those things where that's where a simple feature like that, I have to use a plugin to get the kind of easing in and out that I want.
Right.
So little things like that, or like
that's not
or
little.
Alex,
that's kind of big.
Yeah, or Alex 4D. Alex, I always put the
Gulner.
R. I don't know if it's Gulner or
Gulner.
Gulner. Or his text box he created years ago that dynamically adjusts the carriage returns.
Right.
To me, that's a no-brainer. Like it exists in Motion, I think, but I don't think it exists in Final Cut, where you can just resize the box and it'll automatically,
It does now.
adjust the carriage returns of your text. The built-in one, I'm constantly having to, okay, wait, I need to fit it here. Well, let me return the text. Let me put a return here, and little things like that go along. Those are huge workflow improvements for me. Easing in and out. Yeah.
My famous quote about Final Cut Pro's keyframing is I always say keyframing in Final Cut Pro is like keyframing on an Etch-a-Sketch, if you guys know what that is. Yeah. You only have horizontal and vertical controls, one of each, and you got to, of course, it's a little better than that, but there are more controls in the viewer for keyframing. One of the things I find frustrating in the viewer is you can't move a point with arrow keys in the viewer. You can't move anything, or even like if I select a graphic, I can't move it like 1 pixel at a time with the arrow keys. You can't do it. And I'm so used to doing that in all my graphics programs. Yeah, and Pixelmator Pro, which I use all the time, you click on it and just move it 1 frame. Same with Ecamm Live. When I set up this 4-way screen, okay, I make one, then I duplicate it, and then I just adjust them 1 pixel at a time till I get them right. So I'm kind of surprised you can't do that in the viewer in Final Cut. Just doesn't.
I guess you have to do it in the inspector.
I want to grab multiple edges of different, not tracks, whatever, clips, and be able to trim it at the same time. You can only do one at a time. I want to be able to grab multiples. That'd be a huge time saver for me.
I don't remember. I don't know if you can grab them, but you can select multiple edges.
You can select
the playhead, and I forget if it's like Option X or something like that. But you can say, look, take all these edges for all these video clips, audio clips, whatever, and move them here. You can do that. I don't know if you can. I don't know if you can physically drag them together though.
Can't.
But
you can't select more
I
than
think it's
one
like
edge.
the backslash key or something like that, and they all have to be at the exact same spot to do it.
Right.
So by the time you
there
figure
is a
out and
way to
remember
take-
the shortcut, you might as well just select them all and do the duration. Yeah.
Exactly. The only way you can't drag them, as far as I know, but you can have multiple selected at the playhead, and they all have to be aligned, and then say have all of these end up where you put the playhead. And that's how you do it.
You might be able to
So it is
nudge 'em.
possible. It's not in.
Yeah,
I just want to grab them. They don't have to be lined up, and I want to be able to move them like this.
Absolutely.
They stay in the same position relative to each other.
No,
Yep.
absolutely. I'm sure
Make it
that's
happen,
one of the,
Richard. Make it happen.
But see, these are things
Hey,
that I think.
you
I
gonna be
think
here in
these
12
kinds of
years?
things. I can't imagine that these are things that they are somehow waiting for performance.
no.
Like the scrolling timeline, I get. The way drawing the waveforms, I get. What's the
By the way,
rationale for?
these things exist in every NLE. Every NLE has little things that you wish. This is not a Final Cut problem. It is a Final Cut problem, but it is also a problem on all the other systems out there.
right.
What the easing in? Because Premiere has
just in
that.
general,
It's
not these specific things, but every NLE
No,
has
solely
little
Final Cut.
things that make
Sure.
you,
Oh,
pull
yeah, yeah,
your
it's-
hair
yeah,
out.
yeah,
You end
yeah,
up like
yeah,
this.
yeah.
How about Avid's titler? It's the worst titler in the history of anything.
Oh
Yeah.
gosh.
Yeah.
Is it still
No,
that bad?
I'll do a better one for you on Avid. Here's a better Avid one. Because I'm regularly, when I was on Avid, working with things with 30 audio tracks. And you got to do something on 2 of the tracks, and you have to literally trace across the screen to see what you're looking at. And I came up with a solution where every 2 tracks, they're highlighted in one color, the next 2 are not highlighted, and you checkerboard them, and it becomes immediately easier to read. I printed out a timeline, I used the highlighter, I brought it to an Avid meeting, I showed it to one of the tech guys, and he's like, "Oh my God, that's great." 15 years, they haven't implemented it yet. Like, it's the same thing.
It makes you wonder, though, right? Do we really need to file a feedback report on keyframing?
Sure.
No, they know.
Well, yeah,
Do it anyway.
Oh.
It's a
I
numbers
sent
game.
an email.
You sent them anyway. Yeah. Has anybody ever had to you on a feedback report?
Say that again.
When you send
Say
in,
what?
have you ever had them contact you after sending it?
I have, and I also had for Logic. They've
Same.
contacted me, and we went back and forth a few times. Just I was having an issue with Logic a couple years ago, and they definitely, if it's something that either they're questioning or they're saying we don't understand or whatever, a lot of times they will contact you. Now, here's one thing that I suggest doing for feedback. You cannot put a picture in it, and you cannot put a video in your feedback form. However, you can do a video screen grab on YouTube and send them the link. That's what I do. I do it, I don't make it private because then you need a password. I just make it unlisted. And I'll do a screen grab. Here's what I'm talking about, and I'll put the link in the feedback form so they can go
You can
to
upload
it.
it to Dropbox or something too, as well, I guess.
Yeah, but I like YouTube.
Anywhere.
Yeah, but since you can't put a picture or screen grab, that's what I do. Little tip there for the team. Now, what I'm not sure about, and I wanted to ask the team about this, but I didn't get a chance to. When Final Cut Pro crashes, there's a pop-up of, do you want to send this report to Apple? That's not the same as the feedback form. It can't be. That's more of a generic mailbox for Apple crashes.
Is it?
No idea.
Yeah, it has to be, because anything that crashes,
I don't know.
Safari crashes, Notes crashes, it's the same pop-up window. So that may get to the Final Cut Pro team, but it's not as direct as doing the feedback form. On Apple. At the
Yeah, I would assume it goes. I would assume it goes to Final Cut.
well, it gets there eventually,
what,
but not
Steve?
directly.
It does get there because I've spoken to Bill Davis. I was having some serious issues a while back, and I was sending the crash reports, and Bill told me that they're anonymized. There's no way for him to track my report to my system. So what I ended up doing was sending it to him directly in an email. So, or you have to say, I think the crash report log number. Yeah, it's completely anonymized. They don't know who it's coming from, even if you want.
Of course.
So,
Speaking of
but
Bill
I think it
Davis,
does get to the team.
speaking of Bill Davis, I did get permission to take a picture at Apple campus with the two Bill Davises. Because I asked him first, Bill Davis number one and Bill Davis on the Final Cut Pro team were both together, and I said, hey, Bill, can I take this one picture inside here? He goes, yes, you can. So I got a picture of the two Bill Davises in the same place at the same time, because I kept saying, I've never seen you guys the same place at the same time. I think you're like Clark Kent
But they
and
can't
Superman.
physically touch because it's like matter and antimatter. They would explode.
Well, that could be. That very well.
Yeah.
That very well could be. But I did do that, so I did. So one of the things about this Final Cut Pro Creative Summit to people that can't make it is the energy level was through the roof.
Yeah.
I think this had more energy than any other Final Cut Pro Creative Summit I've ever been to. Part of that was from some of the young people. Jen Jager is one of them. Dylan Bates, of course, I've known him for a couple years. We met at NAB a couple years ago, so I've known him, and I've talked to him multiple times. But Jen Jager was the first time I met her. And as a matter of fact,
There she is.
you're being filmed in ProRes Log. This is the first time?
This is the first time.
There you go.
What an amazing moment. Thank you.
It absolutely is an
Thank you
amazing
for
moment.
capturing this moment.
Oh, absolutely.
Amazing.
So she's one of the people that I met there for the first time. Actually, I did that one little capture of her in ProRes Log, but then the last night at the Aloft, I was sitting there having some dinner, and she came over and introduced herself. So we met. She was very, very personable and very, very friendly. So,
She's
but
cool.
some of the young people were just brought another layer of energy to it. The fact that we got to go to Apple Park, the fact that there was an update 10.7, and plus all the regulars like us, and then the young people, all that combination of energy was just really, really good. It's hard to describe if you weren't there, but take our word for it. The energy level was very, very high, and the Final Cut Pro team was energized when we saw their presentation. So,
Yep. There was a young woman in the audience who brought her baby. I think the baby was 2-3 months old, maybe. I was chatting with her. I mean, she was so interested in learning. When I spoke to her, if I remember right, I think she drove up from LA. Sorry, my AirPods falling out. I think she drove up from LA. She was at every session she could make to learn stuff. I thought that was amazing. I mean, the thirst for knowledge to come in, and babies got fussy. She'd feed them or take them outside. It was awesome. I love that. Someone who's there, they're there to learn. Fantastic. Yeah, there was a great youthful energy there. A lot of cool people there, and yeah, I hope to be there next year.
Absolutely.
Yeah, she's in LA. She's not far, and she's trying to build her own brand and website. And like, just like you said, Mike, she wants to learn and absorb everything she possibly can. She's one of those people who wants to take a chance on herself.
Yeah. So
I love that.
This is where we had lunch outside.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Pretty darn good.
Live or are you just shooting?
I go live in the mornings,
Okay.
making clips. I'm not live right now.
Awesome. It's good.
I'm going to broadcast the Apple presentation live.
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is.
I'll be thrown out. I did that one time in 2017. I was Facebook live streaming from the Apple presentation at NAB when they announced 2 million.
So it's a very great pleasure for all of us at Apple today to be able to announce for the first time here in this meeting that we've now reached 2 million seats.
So I did live stream that one thing from NAB. Nobody said anything. I just started live streaming. Didn't ask permission. You know, they always say it's better to ask forgiveness than ask permission. I just started live streaming, and I was, Facebook. Now, the next year, in 2018, they said they made an announcement: don't live stream, don't videotape, don't take photographs, don't audio record, because it's not set up for that. And they were right. But capturing that 2 million thing on screen was, I think, that was important.
I remember seeing that. How many do you think they have now? Do we know?
I'd say 4 to 5 million. Because between, here's why. That was 2017. 2018, 1 year later, they had 500,000 more. So 2017 was 2 million. Sense. 2018 was 2.5 million. They made that announcement as well at NAB. So it would seem to be, that would be 2.5. It seemed to be, 3.5 to 4 million. But I'd say between 4 and 5 million. But they stopped giving us numbers. I'm not sure why, but I
don't know. But you would think those numbers are a little more legit because everybody had to actually purchase Final Cut Pro specifically versus it being part of an Adobe CC package where,
That's exactly correct.
People downloaded it, they tried it, they may be using they may not be even doing video editing.
Well, here's
or Blackmagic camera.
Luke. That's a voice we didn't hear at the summit in 2023 because he's gone. He's back in Australia. He's no longer an Apple employee. He's a contractor, works for a contractor or something, which was shocking because I'm so used to Luke being the voice of Final Cut Pro team, the whatever, not on the team, but he's a promotion person. I was really shocked when he left. But you're exactly right, Brett. People say, oh, well, everybody's got Premiere. No, everybody's got After Effects and Photoshop. Premiere goes along by default. People aren't buying Adobe Premiere for Premiere. It's just there because they have Photoshop and they have After Effects, like in colleges and schools, right? They buy Photoshop and they have After Effects, so Premiere is just there. It's like, here, take this as well. Take this.
Well, I know people who love editing in Premiere. I think they're wrong, but I know people who love it.
Well, I understand. I understand that if you're used to it, but I'm saying that the Adobe subscription is mostly for Photoshop. Mostly Photoshop, and I'd say After Effects number 2. I don't think hardly anybody buys it for Premiere. It's just there because you have Photoshop and you have After Effects. I mean, there would be some, of course, but.
I mean, I guess, you could have counted me in that back before CC. I did 1 year, but I mean, I had worked my way up, upgrade to this, and you get the master collection.
Right.
And so at some point, but you only had to upgrade you could skip a few versions a year or two here and there, especially if you're, working on your own, you're not working with a team. So then all of a sudden they have, only $600 a year. I was like, well, I already have the master collection. I'll only pay that much for the upgrade every 2 years, or something like that. By choice, unless I need something, client gives me something that required a certain version. So somewhere around there, I kind of switched from After Effects over. I mean, I was using Final Cut. So I was one of these guys who had Premiere. I had the master collection. I was using Dreamweaver even back then, if you remember that.
Oh yeah,
for my own little website and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of stuff I didn't use.
Yeah. Well, as a matter of fact,
I guess I was counted as a Premiere seat, though, right?
Well, exactly. But here's the thing: talking about Dreamweaver, I was a big fan back in the early days of doing web design. I did web design before I did video back in the late 90s. There was a program called Go Live, which was Mac only.
Oh, yeah.
Adobe bought them, and everybody said they're going to kill it. They're going to ruin it and kill it, and that's exactly what happened. They ruined it, and then they dropped it, and it was gone. But Dreamweaver was always clunky to me. It just seemed so Windowsy the way it worked and stuff. I just couldn't, and it was complex. Go Live was phenomenal at the time. So I use that. Now what do I use now? Everweb. I use Everweb now. So, let's talk about 2024. What do we see for Final Cut Pro in 2024? I mean, besides just features, obviously, roles-based mixer. I don't think anybody, even Tangier would like that, right, Tangier?
Yes. I think for sure we'll probably see some kind of more support in Final Cut for whatever the Vision Pro, or if they have another headset of some kind that's cheaper.
Who's going to buy that? Who here is going to buy a Vision Pro for $3,500?
I'm sure going to try to find someone who has it and try it out.
Yes, exactly.
There you go.
I have volunteered to the Final Cut team that if they're going to do any testing, that I'm very available. And they laughed. I mean, very politely, but there was no, I don't know if they're, we can assume.
Well,
I would really like to see ambisonic significantly better ambisonic support in Final Cut.
Tell us what that is.
And maybe that's so shooting, let's say 360 video with an Insta360, and then Zoom has the audio device, so you can get the sound for that kind of shooting environment. Final Cut really doesn't have much support for that, so to work with that kind of audio. So I'd really like to see that. I know it may not matter to a larger crowd, but just for things like the Vision Pro, or maybe some 360 VR headsets and things like that. I'm finding that I am teaching students now how to shoot for a headset for right now for the Oculus Quest 2s.
Really?
And that's where we did our first project earlier this year, and it was pretty successful, but the audio was where we struggled, because just trying to find a way to use it meaningfully and fully. That I would really appreciate not having to go to another application to do that. It handles Final Cut handles the 360 video just fine. I just needed to bring along the audio side of it better.
Okay.
Yeah, and if they're doing the headset, they may need that to work. That's a good point.
Yeah.
So I'm expecting, because there's 3 events in 2024 that possibly will see either some updates, or the Final Cut Pro team will be there. Number 1 is NAB, which is coming in the middle of April. Yeah. Number 2 is WWDC, and then of course the Creative Summit 2024, which I'm predicting will be back at the Juniper, someplace like that. But the problem with the headset at any of those events are, how long does it take to fit somebody? You can't just walk up and put it on your head. As a matter of fact, you can't get the Vision Pro delivered to you. You have to go to an Apple store, from what I understand, and they have to actually do the fine-tuning adjustments and all that stuff. So that won't work at NAB, because you have a line, 3,000 people, and each one takes 5 or 10 minutes, whatever it takes. I'm just curious. But and then WWDC, and then of course back to the Creative Summit, hopefully next year.
Well, Richard, I put a brick in that security door at Apple Park when we took, so we'll be able to. If they haven't caught it, you and I will go in tonight. We'll fit ourselves. We'll try it out.
So,
I
right.
have
Well,
a feeling I know where it is. I think I know.
Very
it's
cool. That was
Little
very
gaffer's tape
smart of
over
you.
the lock.
Thinking ahead.
Now, when they gave us a tour of the outside of the Apple Park, and they said, first off, there's 2 things that really surprised me. They said the glass is cleaned every night. Okay, I'm like, is it 3 or 5 stories tall, inside and outside, 1 mile around radius, and it's cleaned every night? Now, obviously, it's not a little bunch of people from the Wizard of Oz doing it. It's just some kind of mechanical or electronic or whatever, ultrasonic way of cleaning it. And the other thing was they showed us those 2 slotting. They said this actually comes apart at the cafeteria. And my question was, does Tim Cook have a button for that? Does he just randomly press that button to open and close just to mess with people?
Oh, that guy's walking
I think
through.
it
I'm going
came
to push and try to squish him.
Yeah, exactly.
It came apart on the inside too, if I remember right. So it was almost just like an entirely open segment of the.
Yeah. So you could
Except for the roof.
airflow would go right through into the center. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't let us in the center. That would have been nice.
No, we didn't get to go to the Steve Jobs Theater. One of the things that I'm going to suggest, because the Final Cut Pro team watches this broadcast, and I agree, Brad Olson said he liked the presentation better at One Infinite Loop because it was a theater with seats looking down at the stage, because he was in the back and he's a little bit height challenged, and he said he couldn't see the timeline from the back of the room on the screen. So my suggestion would be give us a theater. Steve Jobs Theater would be fine, right, guys?
That'd be cool.
It'd be very cool.
Yeah,
We have 200 people, whatever. We had 175, 200 people. But a theater setting for presentation is better than just a flat room with chairs and the screens up there. It's a little more special. But
By the way, quick, unrelated, but they're closing the Apple Store at One Infinite Loop.
I saw
It's
that.
shutting down.
Oh yeah.
I saw that.
And the one at Apple Park Visitor Center, I was there on vacation last week, and I brought my and they have new shirts for the Mac 40th anniversary that they did not have when we went for the FCP event for the Creative Con.
I'll be darned.
So I have one. I did not wear it today, but I have one.
I want to see the
I got-
Tim Cook T-shirt that says, "I know what Final Cut Pro is."
What's that, Brett?
What's that?
Still hadn't opened mine yet.
No.
I'm scared. I
you
mean,
got
I'm
the
scared
prints,
to.
The 4 prints. Oh, the shirt. Yeah. Those are gone.
Yeah.
Those are not there anymore.
I'll be darned.
That was yeah.
Yeah, most of the shirts
Should we do it? Should we do an unboxing video?
Somewhere I have an Avid.
I suspect we'll see more AI integration, maybe.
In what field? What part would you see AI?
I just, it may not, maybe it won't be something new, but maybe it'll just
Posting
be
YouTube
more
videos?
improvements on the tracker, even more. They'll just continue making it better. Maybe with, maybe that'll be one of these where people want these major updates, but it'll just be another little update with even better tracking improvements. Little things like that. Yeah, I don't know. Do any of you suspect there'll be a major, anything major next year?
Well,
I'm hoping.
Here's the thing, and I tell people this. This is 10.7. This is the new era of Final Cut Pro for the next couple of years.
Yeah.
Very likely. This is a 10.7 era of Final Cut Pro. So we got like 4 features at the launch, but that doesn't mean there's going to be no more features for 2 years. It means they're going to put out features when they're ready. So as far as AI, I would think transcriptions would be a perfect example of that. They've got to incorporate that somewhere. Either that or buy Lumberjack systems and incorporate that, one or the other. Philip and Greg's excellent text-based editor.
Maybe with masking.
You mean we should buy it or Apple should buy them?
Apple should buy them. I like the native features in Final Cut, as many as possible. You know, as long as it makes sense.
Right.
You know. I mean,
Maybe more
look,
masking will be improved. Maybe.
Okay.
Rotoscoping type features will be improved. That
Does
could be
any-
a real.
Does any NLE have built-in rotoscoping? Not After Effects, but any NLE?
Well, Resolve
Well, I
has
DaVinci. Yeah.
yeah,
They
DaVinci
have it?
Resolve product. Yeah, they have a in the production the pro
Studio version.
Studio version,
Studio,
yeah.
yeah.
But that's not in the editor, is it? That's in the After Effects module,
the color.
Fusion.
Yeah,
Diffusion.
Fusion.
Is that where it is?
What? No, you can animate
color.
a mask just like the draw mask.
Well, rotoscope.
But I
though.
think what's nice, yeah,
It's just a lot nicer in Resolve in
Yeah.
terms of the what it can do really quickly.
it's called Magic
Rob,
Mask.
Show us something.
that's in that's in the studio only. Yeah.
Yeah.
Magic Mask. Yeah,
Okay.
it's pretty.
But
pretty
yeah,
impressive.
that and Premiere have better masking, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be.
What
I
about
always think-
Tanger? What about like in the color tab right now? We're kind of limited to our mask being an oval or a square, soft
Right.
edge.
Right.
Versus what do they call it in Resolve, the power
Magic masks.
power. Well, you can draw a specific shape,
Yeah.
and have it track. And Magic Mask is a little more like what, Keeper
Yeah, a little bit.
in a sense. Not the same.
Just maybe some improvements there. I can see Apple kind of taking some time to just refine it and make it easier. I do appreciate what they've done with the object tracker and making it even better. And those are really welcome. And I like the way that they do it. It's just you drag something on and it identifies a face or
Right,
it's
right.
very user friendly. But sometimes you just need a little bit more control.
No, of course.
Than that. Yeah, and so I welcome those kind of improvements and things like that. Apple to me is that type of company. I may have mentioned this before, and maybe it rarely happens, and maybe it doesn't matter to a lot of people, but Apple's the type of company to me that would be the one company that is able to identify, use software, use AI to identify when the slate actually closes, and then mark your clip for those rare occasions where you don't have a scratch track and you have to do things manually. It's just like,
Well,
that would be
Pluralize is
wonderful.
going away. Pluralize is being phased out, and we don't have anything. I've used it a couple of times for Final Cut. We don't have anything. They were relying on that third-party software to solve
Yeah.
that issue for Final Cut, and now that third-party software is gone. So I'm hoping that something comes along to replace it.
I haven't used Pluralize in years.
Right.
And I had to,
Well,
I
everyone
did
has
like
it built in.
I did a massive kind of comparing Pluralize to Final Cut and other apps and third-party apps, and I used it when it was because it had one specific feature that it could correct, which was sync drift years ago.
Okay.
Nobody else had that, and it was great for live events. But the problem I always had with Pluralize was that it didn't, at least the last version I used, it didn't create those kind of, what I was used to in Final Cut was create individual synced clips. It was great at creating a timeline with all your clips synced as if you were going to like make a live edit, for like a live
Right.
event. But I what I needed was more for like narratives where it's like, okay, take these clips, sync them together, make them their own object in the browser. That's what I really, really needed. And that's the one thing that, that's another thing that I could really appreciate Apple doing is I'm still stuck having to find whether, sort by the columns and organize which clips go together, select them and then sync them, as opposed to, look, here's a day's worth of stuff, just batch sync it for me.
Yeah.
Final Cut can't do that. So that's why I really had to push going towards, okay, let me work with some tentacle sync, some devices, get my time code. Now let me use sync and link. And Gregory has been over the years great taking my feedback and implementing features or a feature to really help things that I needed for that process, and it's fantastic. And people don't believe me when I tell them, I can take a whole day's worth of content and like sync it in a matter of minutes. It's just their software is so phenomenal. But I
Yes,
still
absolutely.
don't know why. I still don't know why, other than perhaps, I can go into Resolve, and unfortunately, it's not 100% reliable, but it does have the feature of saying, figure it out. Here's all my clips, batch sync it for me. It's not always reliable all the time, whereas Final Cut still makes me sort through it myself and figure out which clips go together to sync.
Yeah.
That's the difference. Now, maybe it's too much memory overhead to do that. I don't know why, but that would be a welcome feature as well.
Well, here's another thing. Since you said, go ahead, Mike.
I was saying I needed it for a Nickelback music video that I did a while back, where they shot a performance multiple times, and each time was with 6 or 7 cameras.
Right.
So that adds up, and I needed to sync everything. The time codes were not, some cameras didn't have time code, some did.
Yeah.
So I used Pluralize to make multicam clips, and there was no way for me to do that in Final Cut. That was Pluralize, export XML. I had my multicams built. But yeah, SyncLink's great. It couldn't do that, but I used it for all the movies I work on.
When you said batch,
I went to Tentacle Sync Studio is great too. I went to that for a minute. That's
when you said batch, it reminded me. Batch export clips with handles, please, in 2024. Because right now, you just have the entire clips that you have to export. No, batch export. Let us make in and out things in the browser and just batch export those selections with handles, please. After all these years.
Maybe when we consolidate a project as well, that would be the bit of media management that we need.
Yes, absolutely.
I would like to
people
be able
point
to,
out that the old Final Cut could do that, but
well, they nicknamed it though the Media Mangler.
Yes. But we really didn't have support. But if you remember, we didn't have support for H.264 except for a few specific formats, and those formats didn't get handles. So there were certain formats that even back in the day in the Media Mangler, it gave you the whole clip because I guess it didn't want to recompress it, because if you're going to trim something off, in something that's long, GOP, it's cool. You just remove the frames, right? But
yes,
if you're, clip off some H.264 or something, you can't just remove it. That I know of, you have to actually run it back through a codec. So,
Brett, is that a Power Mac in the lower left-hand corner over there? Is that a Power Mac?
That is a Mac Pro 1,1.
Wow.
So that was Power PC?
No, that's the Mac Pro. So that's whatever, Xeon. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Xeon.
Yeah, that's the first Xeon one, and it is not even the top of the line one. It was like probably the bottom of the line one.
It looks like it's holding your desk up right now. It's like one of the legs are sitting on top of it.
Yeah, it could. I have two
that's a
Roblox machine.
I have the Power Mac, the Power
For my
PC,
daughter.
and I have the Intel version of the cheese grater. I sold my 2019 Mac Pro, so I wanted to sell it before they came out with the Apple Silicon one.
Nobody has one of those sitting around, do they?
Wow.
That's the 600 XL.
Wow.
It's not plugged in. Still trying to get this to work as my edit keyboard, right?
Yes.
Now that's an old Atari computer that I dug up from my parents' house one day. That thankfully Dad hadn't tossed out or sold.
Now,
I will
Brett,
always regret that we.
Brett, if you can show us anywhere in a room, if you can actually produce a Tandy, I will give you a hand clap. Like
you got a Tandy? Let's see it.
A Tandy computer.
We sold our Apple II Plus years ago. I regret that. It'd be worth some good money now.
Wow.
I had the Timex Sinclair computer. That was around the Tandy days, right?
Wow. Yeah. Wow.
I mean, you're talking like 1982 or something.
That was a long time ago.
I didn't I didn't even touch a computer till the late 90s. I had a recording studio. I had reel-to-reel decks, and I had them synced via SMPTE. I mean, that's how I had a controller, but I didn't get into video editing. And the reason I got into video editing because I was videotaping the bands that I was recording. Oh. I started taping them in the studio, and I go out to see them live, and I said, well, I got to learn how to edit this stuff. So that's how I got involved. It was like the later 90s. And then I remember when I was first buying my first computer, I was running Premiere Pro at a local community college in Westminster, but it was on a PC. But I kept reading about this Macintosh platform. It was really good for video editing. So I asked my teacher, should I get a Mac or should I get a PC? He goes, don't get a Mac. He goes, they don't have any software for it, blah, blah, blah. But I kept seeing everybody online saying, no, get the Mac for video editing. So I got my first Mac, which was a beige G3, not even the tower, one of those flat ones, whatever they call those. And I had Pro Max in California pre-configure it for me with Premiere on the Mac. Because I didn't know anything about computers. I thought, I don't want to be messing with this stuff. They sent it to me, it worked. And then Final Cut Pro came out. Bye-bye, Premiere. See you later.
Yep.
So I want to wish each and every one of you the best New Year. It was great seeing.
Yeah, you too, guys.
It was great seeing y'all at the Final Cut Pro Creative Summit. I met Brett for the first time.
Meeting you guys.
I met Tangier for the first time in person, but he's been on the show multiple times, so I've known him online, and I've known Michael since he sat next to me at 2019 Creative Summit for the Apple presentation, and they didn't introduce anything. There was no new update. I wasn't sure if we should do that again, or if that was bad luck or some kind of jinx, but of course, everything was fine in 2023. We had a great time.
Hey man, I'm happy to fill in the fourth square here, so you didn't have to figure out a three-way split. I'm not sure who called in sick, but I'll take it.
No, I had you right from the beginning. Last week we had Brad, Serena Catania, and
Serena.
And who else was on it?
I need to give her a call.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You see, I had a blank with Josh's name. Now it's you.
No,
Did you really?
No, I interviewed him at the Creative Summit too. I'll forget. I'll figure out who it is.
What the summit will be like this year, 2024 summit.
Well, I think here's what happened this year. From the inside,
I'm Brad, Serena, and Bill. I don't know.
Gabriel Spalding. I remembered it myself.
Ah, that's right.
I'm Gabriel. Brought
met
him on.
Him there too. Yeah, met him at the.
You're picking guys with shaved heads to make yourself feel better, aren't you, Richard?
I'm doing what?
Picking guys with shaved heads. Gabriel as well.
That's true. That's true.
To make yourself feel better, yeah.
Now
I see.
So I interviewed some people at Pete's Cafe, which is really nice. Nice cafe, had good coffee there. I kept getting the double espresso with something. But I interviewed Jeff Greenberg there, and I used double take. So I have him on camera, and then the back camera's pointing to me. I recorded two separate files. Well, it crashed on Jeff Greenberg. And I still have the file. It's got like 250 megabytes in it or something. But I haven't been able to open it. But I did stop. I said, wait a minute, Jeff, it crashed. So I restarted it. I do have the second half of the interview. But I'm still not giving up the fact that there's data inside that file. I got to figure out a way to get to it.
Send it to Jeff. He'll figure out how to open it.
Well, that's true. Of course. Of course.
He had an amazing session on color.
He is an amazing presenter. He is so energetic, and he's subject matter expert on everything. I told him that during our interview.
With a booming voice.
Yeah, well, he always.
Yeah.
I got to put earplugs in when
he went mic free, yeah.
Yeah, I got to put earplugs in when he's standing next to me talking. Whoa, Jeff, hold on a second. I guess I'll see him again at NAB. He's usually there presenting at the FMC party and stuff. He's usually there, so. But anyway, Happy New Year to each and every one of you. I hope you have a great New Year. I hope you had a great 2023. Final Cut Pro Creative Summit 2024. Hope it's back in one place. I think that's one of the main things that they were trying to do this year. It just didn't work out. Mm-hmm. They said that the Juniper couldn't accommodate them. That's what they told me. So too many people or something else was already booked there or whatever. Yeah. So hopefully that'll happen. The problem is we're working with Apple for the dates. You can't do it 9 months in advance. You kind of do it,
right.
You know, you have to kind of get closer to the event. But I would book 2 weekends and say Apple has to do one of these two. But this time wasn't even a weekend. I was shocked. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday.
Yeah.
Which was very unusual. So probably be accommodating Apple.
Good turnout. It worked.
Oh, it absolutely. I really like the Aloft. Mm-hmm. It just didn't like the 1 mile between the Aloft and the presentation. Yeah. But I think they heard that plenty of times.
I appreciate snagging. I got one from you, Richard.
Absolutely.
Uber rides every morning from somebody different, I think.
Every time I saw somebody out there, I said, come on, it doesn't cost any more. Come on, jump in with me. Yeah. Absolutely. And Michael and I shared a few Uber rides back and forth as well.
Yep. Wrapping it up here, I guess, right? Are you? I don't know. But
yes.
What is that our cue? Do we have to?
No, that's some. I don't know why my phone does that.
That's me calling Richard. Hey, it's time to go.
I want to tell people to go to the summit. I really enjoyed it, but I'm from a developer side of thing. I think what I got out of it was obvious, meeting other developers and customers alike. But how do we sell it to just the average user? If you live in California, or if it's drivable, it's pretty easy.
Well, yeah,
so what would you guys say people should be getting out of it?
Listen, it's expensive. You got to get a hotel. You got to take off work. You got to pay for. Well, the price came way down, $299 compared to $1,000. That was subsidized. Probably a part by Apple and some other of the top tier. Developers. I think Motion VFX was one of them, and maybe Roger Bolton's company. But anyway, so they brought the price way down because it's expensive. It's expensive renting those hotels and the rooms and paying the presenters from coming from Australia. We had Ian Anderson. We had the other two we had, Chris Hawking, and then Lee. And there was the Australians this time were dominating the place. Yeah. I was every time I turned around, there's a new Australian there. Huh?
They always do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Funny accents.
Yeah. I love some of the Australian TV that I've watched.
Yeah, they're great.
Yeah, but so here's the thing. It's limited to 150 to 200 people at this point. I'm not sure if it got to be more than that, it would be a bigger event. It might become more, cumbersome for them to do. So I'm not sure how they
you'd
work.
have another room, more breakout sessions, I think, that sort of thing.
Right.
I guess if you learn in person, if you're better when to have somebody teaching you in person, you can ask questions later. I mean, because you can't get that from a YouTube video or
no, absolutely not. Well, when they had the virtual ones the last couple of years, that wasn't anything close to being the in-person one. I mean, when I did
it was cool that you could play them back afterward for a certain amount of time, if I remember.
But just whatever's on the screen, though, it was just screen recordings. It wasn't the presenter in front of a lectern. It wasn't the audience. But so before they announced this 2023 Creative Summit, I did the documentary, the Final Cut Pro Creative Summit documentary. It's 42 minutes. And the whole idea was I don't want people to forget how great this was. I don't want people to forget how great the in-person version was. So that's why I did that. 42 minutes. It's on YouTube. You can search it. It goes from 2016, 2017, 2018, and 2019. I didn't do 2018 that much. I was holding that out for part 2. Because that was a little bit different. But now we're back on track again. I think we're going to keep on doing these again. I mean, this big hand for the Final Cut Pro team, letting us come to the Spaceship Campus and FMC. Ben, the owner of FMC, especially, because he's one of the big people that pushes this all the time. And we want to see the 2024. Of course, we won't know anything until June, July, or August, whatever. I might know a little more in advance, but I can't go public with it until they do. So anyway, Happy New Year to each and every one of you. Best of 2024. Hope you have a good New Year's Eve, whatever that is. We're having a rib roast and our typical New Year's Eve dinner, and we might do some fireworks outside. We'll see. Oh, one of the other things I was going to mention, Tangier, do you have any pets?
No.
Okay. Then you're excluded.
Okay.
3 of us, Brett, me, and Michael,
Yeah.
all have cats. We all have cats.
Yeah.
Brett and I both do cat rescue. Michael does he probably rescues a cat or two himself, but he had a cat on his
No,
last.
all
cat
3 of
fostering.
ours are rescues, but we didn't do the rescuing.
Yeah, but there you go. There you go. So that's something else I wanted to bring up. We're both, Brett's involved directly with cat rescues, and I do pro bono work with Final Cut Pro for 4 different main animal rescues in the area. Horse rescue
Say,
that
the
has
wife,
a blind
the
herd.
wife is more involved.
Yeah. It has a blind herd, and I do a bunch of other ones, but I use Final Cut for doing pro bono videos, promotional videos for all those rescues.
That's
All
nice.
right, gentlemen. Happy New Year's to you.
Happy New Year, everybody.
We'll see you in 2024.
Yes, indeed.
All right. Happy New Year.
Talk to you all later.
All right. Y'all
See
take
you.
care.